Fat Bear Week has been delayed after a large bear contestant killed one of its rivals. Graves are going to be reused under some proposals to tackle a lack of space for the dead. And have you ever been held hostage overseas? Well, the IRS wants your back taxes. These are the weird stories for Thursday on Weird AF News, the only daily weird news podcast. Let's go. Fat Bear Week now has to be delayed after one of the Fat Bear contestants killed a rival. The start of this annual Fat Bear Week in the United States had to be postponed. There was some killing going on among potential contestants, unfortunately, but this is pretty typical bear humor. From the initial reports, it seems like it was a grisly scene. Really unbearable, but let's get into it and learn about this nonetheless. What's going to happen to Fat Bear Week? Both of these bears were in contention for the 10th anniversary of the Fat Bear Tournament, which pits the heaviest bears against each other in an online vote as they finish bulking up for hibernation. The brutal attack involved a male bear known as bear number 469 and a female bear known as bear number 402. It's nice that they call them Bear 469 and Bear 402 instead of Fatty 469 and Fatty 402, which is a bit insulting. This took place in a river at Alaska's Katmai National Park and Preserve. The incident was caught on a live video feed. I'm not about to watch that because I know it's going to give me a bad day. Apparently, this website, explore.org, streams footage from this park in Alaska. They say the male bear's challenge appeared predatory, as if it was triggered in the middle of something. They say this is a difficult situation to witness. We love to celebrate the success of bears with full stomachs and ample body fat, but the ferocity of bears is still a real thing. The risks they face are very real. Their lives can be hard, and their deaths can often be very painful. The video shows the bears fighting in a river with the female seemingly overpowered and appearing to drown before the male drags her body to the land. After the incident, the reveal for Fat Bear Week bracket, which confirms the 12 heavyweight bears who qualified, was postponed until Tuesday. National parks like Katmai protect not only the wonders of nature, but also the harsh realities of nature. You can watch these bears on the webcams as they compete with others to survive the harsh climates. The park says there's also some concerns about a legendary beefy fat bear named Otis, also known as bear number 480, who seems to be missing, and they can't find Otis. Fat Bear Week just turned into like Fat Bear Hunger Games, or the Fat Bear Purge. They're still looking for Otis, who won the first tournament and went on to win another 3 tournaments to become the most decorated fat bear in the competition's history. That's why they're very concerned about the whereabouts of Otis. Otis and his fat asses. Who knows where Otis is? It says there are over 2,000 brown bears in this park, with only a select few of the fatties making it to the competition each year. The reigning champion is bear number 128, known as Grazer, but already they think another bear named Chunk, bear number 32, will be the winner because Chunk appears to be the largest this year. That's a good name for a fat bear, Chunk. Chunk is a 20-year-old male who once ate 42 salmon within 10 hours. Wow, they've been following Chunk's luncheons for a while now. More than 1.3 million votes were cast last year for Fat Bear, and voting is open until October 8th, when a champion will be crowned. Fans vote in each round, and they are encouraged not only to consider the biggest bear, but the one they believe best exemplifies fatness and success in the brown bear population. Surprisingly, the article doesn't address what's the penalty for Bear 469. Is Bear 469 disqualified for killing a contestant? And imagine it would be, right? And you thought that U.S. presidential elections were competitive. These bears take this seriously. Bear 469 obviously learned some political tactics and election tactics from Putin. I can't see Bear 469 getting many votes, though, after the violence. My question is, are you still choosing the bear, ladies? Eh? Graves could be reused under some proposals to tackle a lack of space for the dead. Graves may be reused in closed burial grounds reopened under some proposals that are aimed at tackling a lack of space for dead bodies. Well, this is an easy fix as far as I'm concerned. Just stack them vertically instead of horizontally. It takes up less space. Vertical dead bodies. All of them standing up like a giant dead mosh pit in the cemetery. That's just my idea. Let's keep reading and find out what they came up with. This story is out of the UK. The Law Commission has suggested cemeteries which have been declared full could be reused for some new burials. The proposal is part of a public consultation by the Commission on updating 170-year-old burial laws in England and Wales. The Commission has warned that urban areas are fast running out of burial space, with many cemeteries already quite full. Proposed changes would allow burial grounds to reuse graves, but only after public consultation and some government approval. It says here, safeguards would also be in place for each individual grave, with plots only eligible to be reused when the last person was buried at least 75 years ago. A separate public consultation is considering the time frames around the grave reuse and what would happen if family members objected to their grave being reused. Well, I need to know what reused means. Do they just, dig up the coffin and drop it off at your door and be like, hey, you might want to, put this in your garage because we can't keep it in the ground anymore? I mean, it just seems... where do the bones go after the expiration? Honey, Daddy's grave was a timeshare. We're going to have to keep his bones in the living room for the time being until we can come up with Plan B. They interviewed someone named Julie Rugg, who's an expert on burial reform. Wow, that's a niche. Burial reform. How much work you got with that? I guess in overpopulated cities, there's some jobs open for burial reform agents. Julie says that this is absolutely necessary, these changes. She said, our system isn't working and is actually threatening our funeral heritage and the Victorian cemeteries that we love so much. We're just running out of space. A lot of people don't really have an issue with this. I don't think anybody would anticipate that their grave would never be touched again. It's just not reasonable. They also got a quote from a vicar of the St. Anne's Church in West London. Guy's name's Fraser. He says, I have a graveyard that's full. I have a mausoleum that's full. There's no place for the dead. But I'm also aware that the dead protect these open spaces for the living. I'd be very, very nervous about reusing things to build upon them. This is not what's being proposed, of course, but it's going in that direction, it seems to me. In addition, it's quite an extraordinary administrative nightmare just to move one gravestone. Can you imagine? You might not even be able to contact their relatives. But the relatives may well have quite strong feelings about their loved ones, with the expectation that that is where they have been laid to rest, and it'll remain where they lay to rest. It seems to me this is going to be an ongoing issue in places that don't have a lot of land. In the U.S., we really don't have that issue with so much land, but these European countries... it's just not a lot. So what do you do? I don't know. I heard in Germany that a standard burial plot expires after like 20 years, and then you can like pay to extend it. But if not, the headstone's removed and a new grave is put in there. I don't know what they do with the body at that point. Do they offer like free cremation or something? Maybe they offer to bring it and just transplant it in your own backyard or something. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming here. I highly doubt they bring it by and go, all right, you could put it in the attic, just light some incense. On a personal note, I think burying a body is just foolish behavior anyways. It does take up space. What a waste. It costs more money because of the upkeep, the ongoing upkeep. I think cremation's the best way to go about it for normal people. I'm not a normal person, so for me, I want to be buried in one of those disintegrating caskets, the ones that are made out of, I think they're made out of soy. Or, I think they just cut open a giant Impossible Burger and they put you in the ground. You get the point. You're in a coffin that is, biodegradable, and your body and the coffin just go into the ground. Giving nutrients back to Mother Earth. I'm nutritious. I'm so nutritious. Why wouldn't I just give my nutrients back to the earth? Maybe a tree will grow where I was laid or something useful, and then I'm contributing to oxygen for future generations. That seems very productive, anti-wasteful, in my opinion. Or maybe at one point when I'm dead, there'll be a really cool way to recycle my body in a useful way. I could donate it to not science, but to sport. If they could just mummify me and then put me on a mini golf course and you just got to hit it through the mummy's legs. Just imagine a whole mini golf course of mummies that were at one time dead people. You could have a little plaque next to each of them. You could read about, oh, this is Jonesy's body. This guy had a very unsuccessful podcast that he recorded in a closet for 25 years. And now he's a major feature on hole number 12. See, I have good ideas. No one ever asks me to solve problems. I don't know when they're going to come for me. I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, if you listen to this podcast for a number of years, you've heard all of the dynamic solutions I have to the world's problems. And like at least 1/10 of them make some sense.
Right now, get scary good deals on select Ring cameras and doorbells. See who's there. Keep your scaredy cats company.
Oh, it's okay, sweetie. I'll be home soon.
And protect your crypt from the real monsters.
Oh, come on. The sign says take one.
Save big on select Ring devices right now at ring.com.
The IRS is fining American hostages for taxes that they missed while they were in captivity. Well, you know what they say? There's only two certainties in life, death and taxes. There's a reason for that. Now, apparently, if you're a hostage, you had to pay taxes at that time. Who knew? Many Americans who return home after being illegally detained overseas often arrive and find that they've been billed thousands of dollars by the IRS, including late fees for the unpaid taxes. That's the bizarre situation in which American hostages Evan, Paul, and Vladimir find themselves after they have been released from a detention center in Russia recently. All three men say they faced a battery of surprise financial issues after returning home to the States, including tax charges and hits to the credit stemming from bills that they were unable to pay while behind bars. Well, yeah, obviously, your credit's going to be affected because you're not paying bills while you're behind bars. And there's nothing that the creditors are probably going to do about that. I was a bill collector for a little while, and let me tell you something. You could come up with any excuse you want. They don't care, okay? Now, as far as the IRS goes and taxes, I mean, you would think that they would at least eliminate late fees if you were a hostage in Russia or anywhere. I mean, I don't think you're going to get away with not filing. You have to file your taxes for every tax season, but the fines should be waived. You got to file taxes if you're in a coma, from my understanding, or if you've been abducted by aliens. You got to file, man. Even prisoners, I believe, file taxes. Maybe I'm wrong about this. You would think that they would give you a free pass for being a hostage. Because, I mean, what do you expect? Sir, you didn't file your taxes. They cut off my hands. Oh, yeah, so sorry. You still got to file. And you're going to have to pay late fees and interest and penalties for the years that you were locked up. So sad. Here's a quote from one of these people. They say, I got one of those bills from the IRS saying that you owe this much on this year, you owe this much on this year because of failure to pay on time. Here's the interest that's accrued. This guy faced more than $6,000 in fees for unpaid taxes after his release following a year and a half of detention in Iran. They say this is an oversight that nobody really thought about. Oh, I'm sure they thought about it, but they don't give a damn at the IRS. Are you kidding me? You know what they say, the devil works hard, the IRS works much harder. And apparently they asked the IRS about this, who said that for their part, they claim they don't have the legal authority to remove tax fees for returning hostages. Oh, come on. Well, maybe they don't, but perhaps the government makes the decisions for them. I still can't let the IRS off the hook, man. I mean, it's like they can't seem to get billionaires to pay more than 2% These rich people get away with not paying their taxes for decades. Corporations get off the hook often, and yet, these poor hostages, they're like, yeah, they make sure they track them down for their late fees. It says there's hope on the horizon, though. Earlier this year, Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat, introduced the Stop Tax Penalties on American Hostages Act, a bill that would require the IRS to exempt hostages from tax liabilities during the period of their detainment. The bill would also force the IRS to allow hostages and their spouses to apply to have their tax-related fines removed as well. In addition to dealing with the horrors of being held hostage in a foreign land and dealing with the rocky transition back to normal life in the States, former detainees shouldn't also get slapped with thousands of dollars of fines for taxes that they never could have paid in the first place, says this guy. And I agree with this guy. I mean, it's bad enough you had to endure being a hostage in a place like Russia. Can you imagine? What are they? Maybe they're in a gulag. Is that what they call it? Gulag? Is that what that is? Or is gulag a healthy smoothie of some sort? Anyways, when you get back into the States now, you got to pay these fines and whatnot. You should get all of it waived. You should get free health care when you get back here. And a job. Give them a job. And season tickets to the sporting team of their choice as well. These people should be honored. And their transition here should be smooth. And they should be celebrated on some level. And give them free massages for life. You know the ones. Hey, my friends and my loyal listeners of the Weird AF News podcast. You just spent some time with me, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much for that. I'll keep this brief. Tomorrow is going to be the Florida Friday episode, FYI. So if you come across any weird Florida-related news items, please don't hesitate for a minute to email me a link. It's funnyjones at gmail.com. You can also send them to me on Instagram in a DM at funnyjones as well. Try and put together the best Florida Friday episode that I can, as I attempt to do each week, going back many years. What else? If you want to support the show, please consider joining the Patreon. And if you join now, you can ask me a question that I'm going to answer on my Ask Jonesy Anything video. If you buy me a coffee and ask me a question, I'll also answer that. But I'm posting the video in the Patreon first. They're going to have exclusive viewing to the video that I create when I answer the questions first before I eventually let it go out into the real world. But it's just one of the perks you get being part of the Patreon. I like to give them some goodies in there, you know. I really love them in there. They're very supportive people. Big fans of the show. So consider joining the Patreon. Patreon.com/WeirdAFnews. Go to WeirdAFnews.com, the official website. That's where you can join the Patreon or buy me a coffee. And we'll see you tomorrow for a Florida Friday. Good luck with your life, man.